Okay, perhaps we should we're like 24 people now. I'm just gonna give it like 2 more minutes maybe to see if some more people want to join us, and then I'm gonna start.
У меня такой один вопрос.
Okay, we're 27 people now. I think it's a good moment to start. Can my colleagues like Sergey or Danny, can you just let me know if you can all hear me?
Yeah, everything's
yes,
perfect.
yeah.
Okay, perfect. Then guys, a very warm welcome from me and from my team. We're very excited about today to be hosting such a global event. I'm myself from Korean Exchange in Hong Kong. So I'm in a student hall and I really hope that my connection is stable, but should all be good. Yeah, so very warm welcome from me and from my colleagues to welcome you to the European Marketing and Management Association Youth Forum event. My name is Alice and I'm one of the vice presidents. And today's topic, and we're very excited about the topic, is global education for a multipolar world. This event will be moderated by 5 of us, the members of the presidency. Our president, Danny, who will be joining us from the United Kingdom, Sergey, who is another vice president from Austria. We have Lynn, who is joining us from Italy, Minkyu from South Korea, and myself, actually from Austria, but now from Hong Kong. Today's event will be, it will start with a welcoming speech from our president, Danny, and after that we will introduce our lecturers and academics and to ask questions that we have prepared for them. And we'll also turn to the professors and talk to them about how their institutions prepare students for future challenges. So the students that have registered for those events are from countries from all over the globe. So we have students joining from Albania, Austria, Bosnia, Bulgaria, also from China, from Georgia, Italy, South Korea, Nigeria even, Poland, Romania, Russia, Serbia, Slovakia, Slovenia, South Africa, the Ukraine, and of course the United Kingdom. We welcome you, and we want to invite you to take this as an opportunity to actively participate in the discussions. And panic not, the event will probably not take longer than 80 to 90 minutes, and the meeting is recorded. I hope that's everyone's comfortable with that. And at the moment, it's also live streaming on YouTube. The link will also be shared. Before the opening speech, Lynn will have a short announcement for us.
So thank you, Alice. Dear colleagues, firstly, allow me to greet you all and invite all students present here today that are not members of the Youth Forum to register and also become full members of the Forum and the European Marketing and Management Association. The registration can be done through the registration form that is available on our website. And the link will also be shared in the chat as well, so no worries. And the membership is free and you don't need to make any payments. Also, I will take the opportunity to invite you to join some of the research centers of your interest and also learn from other members while participating in the joint research or projects. Also, they are free of charge. All participants, students can download their certificate of attendance from the link that we're going to share in the chat. The certificates are prepared for those who registered, and if there are also students who are not who are present here but have not registered, so you can also register during the event, and we will also prepare the certificates for you too. Please help us keep a nice and cold environment, and please keep your microphones muted. Moderators can turn on the microphones when talking, and also professors when responding to their questions. At the end of the third part, you will be all invited to ask questions. So please do so by raising your hand. And finally, I would appreciate if you all switch on your cameras for us to take a family photo. That would be super sweet.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. And now, as mentioned, our president, Danny, is going to give the opening speech.
All right. Hope you guys can hear me. So
yes.
Thank you, Alice and Lynn, for the lovely introduction. And dear colleagues, my name is Danny, and first allow me to greet you on behalf of the European Marketing and Management Association Youth Forum, and express my gratitude for accepting the invitation to attend the first event of this kind of our forum, in the hope that this will be the trigger for like many future meetings, maybe webinars or roundtables. So when I say we, I mean the members of the presidency of the Youth Forum, as Alice has introduced before, and all other members of the forum, whom I especially greet and welcome. So the title of today's event is A2S Youth Forum Events Global Education for Multipolar World, Sensitivity Test for the 21st Century. So where the term multipolar is used to point to the difference and difficulties that occur daily in world economies and business. So it's also used with the intention of depicting the inseparability of politics and business and the influence they have on each other. So our goal of this event is to look at the specifics and challenges that business face today, as well as the way in which like higher education institutions follow contemporary trends and prepare the students for those challenges. So in that regard, in addition to our fellow students who come from more than, I believe, a dozen different countries, we also invited some amazing distinguished professors to find out and learn something new in a relaxed discussion, which could help us in our further studies and work. So once more, thank you for joining us, and I hope this event will be a success. So Sergey, we have already had some like informal meetings before to prepare for today's events. Could you reflect on it, please?
Yes, thank you very much, Danny, and warm greetings to all of our guests and event participants from my side as well. I hope you also can hear me very well. Yes, regarding the informal meetings, you made a nice introduction and explained our motives. What we actually wish through our meetings is to identify some key points and challenges that global businesses are facing nowadays, which are many, and we will not be able, of course, to tackle all of them during this meeting, but we have selected a few that we actually consider to be the most interesting for our webinar today. So also, We wish to find out how we are preparing for those challenges and how students in general are prepared for them. So, Minkyu, how would you summarize our talks, and what would you say are these most important questions that we are going to raise today?
Thank you, Sergey. First of all, let me greet the audience and express my pleasure for seeing you all here today. Well, Sergey, as you remember, we tackled a number of different topics and chose some of those we thought would be the most interesting for us and our colleagues to learn more. Indeed, the world is changing extremely fast. Many new things occur and changes are visible in all walks of our life and about businesses. So that a few conferences like this one would not be enough to touch on all current issues. So we decided to talk today about digitalization and how it affects our lives. Secondly, international business and changes it faces. Third, cultural difference that we are more and more aware of. Migrations in all its forms. And lastly, work-life balance and modern days struggle to meet all expectations. As I said, there are really many topics that drew our attention, but we shall today focus on mentioned one only. Lynn, I think we made a good choice with the topics, but what we should be more proud of is the opportunity to meet our eminent guests, university professors and officials who will give us more information about these contemporary issues.
Thank you, Minkyu, and good afternoon, everybody. Yes, indeed, we are happy to welcome today some of the most eminent researchers and professors and address our questions to them. What I must add is that each of us selected one set of questions so that we shall take turns to ask. Now, without further ado, let me start to introduce and greet Professor Dr. Yula Milentoy. Professor Yula Milentoy is an associate professor in the Department of Public Association at the Cyprus University of Technology. She holds a PhD in marketing from the University of Manchester. Professor Milentoy has been in academia since 2004, where she served as a director of doctoral programs in the School of Business at the University of Nicosia. Her research interests are in the area of social media and consumer behavior, presenting and publishing extensively on related topics. She has also been a research director and marketing consultant. So welcome, Professor Milentoy.
Hi, it's very nice to be here. I absolutely love speaking to youth. I feel very happy to be able to share some of my thoughts, especially with young people, because I think you are during a very, very difficult time where so many changes are happening. And we expect you to be the next leaders and to drive this change forward. Would you like me to start sharing some of my thoughts, or do you have any questions, or I can just go away straight into talking?
Well, actually, we really have some questions. We are really curious about it, and we really hope to gain something from your professor. So, for example, firstly, could you please tell us something about the impact of digitalization on contemporary marketing strategies and practices?
Yeah. Thanks. There's something that I cannot stress enough about education and marketing and the digital world. How is it evolving? First of all, I want to stress how much, especially in the domain of marketing, the principles and the strategy of marketing do not change ever. Okay? The fundamental of marketing, even if we're talking about management or especially marketing, which is my area, the principles and the strategy are there, whether you're talking into the physical world or if you're talking about the digital world. And sometimes people get, I see this a lot in education where a lot of students, they say, oh, I want to do digital marketing. And I stop them there and I said, no, you want to do marketing, but in a digital environment, okay? Which has very little differences compared to the online world. One of the major differences is that while traditionally as educators, we would prepare students and the skills that students had were for a more traditional world. now we see that there's a very big skill gap in our graduates compared to, and the knowledge that they get from the universities, and I'm talking about very big universities, well-known universities, and what the industry needs. The industry needs marketers who are very familiar with digital tools, okay? But they need also people that know the strategy and they can apply the strategy and they are critical thinkers and they can manage strategy, but also they are familiar with all the digitalization that is going around in the world. I was recently looking at the trends of how the future basically of commerce, and when we talk about commerce, we're talking about the marketplace, which is what we are here to train graduates to enter the marketplace. And it was very interesting to see that probably all of the domains that we see happening in the marketplace have to do with digitalization knowledge. We need to be doing things like rethinking the store. The store is no longer just a physical outlet where people will go in and browse and shop. Many people do a lot of research before they go shopping. They might not even go to shops. They might just go straight to the online shopping, okay? So there we need what we call omni-retailing, omni-shopping, okay? Where they have to feel the same kind of experience, whether it's online or offline, okay? The other thing which we see is that basically digital, it's a default. It's not an option anymore for companies. They have to go digital. And when we say digital, it's looking at things even like, I know it's a buzzword, but I have to share it with you. Virtual reality, the metaverse. Everyone has to know what this is, how it works. I mean, we see virtual reality, we see people wanting to, they want to see the hotel room they're going to go to. They want to see the restaurant they're going to go to. So virtual is not something fancy anymore. Virtual is mainstream now, okay? Yeah. So you don't really have an option there. You have to get into it. You need to do more personalization. You need to know more your customer. You need to focus a lot on the last mile, which is the delivery of, and the experience that consumers get. And this is only available with, looking at big data and understanding. So these are some trends which are really happening. And we have to prepare graduates for this new reality. So I cannot stress it enough. I think I've stressed it. I think I've stressed it now. Any questions so far about this before I move on?
Okay, thank you, Professor. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think digitalization is really, really important, really, really hot these days, especially in the post-COVID period. We need to change our mind. We need to explore more in this area. And as I mentioned before, like about the metaverse, and actually this is also one thing we're really curious. So could you please tell us something about the connection between marketing and metaverse and maybe possible opportunity for innovators and entrepreneurs? Yeah,
I'll give you, is it Lindsay, your name?
Yes, Lindsay, or you can just call me Lynn. Okay, Lynn.
I'll give you a nice example which I came across. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Roblox. It's a game that is played a lot by my daughter is in Roblox. It's like a virtual world, right? And when she started getting into Roblox, I thought, this is a kids thing, whatever. But Roblox actually is the metaverse. It's a virtual world that people can go in and they can do stuff and buy stuff and engage with people and blah 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 blah. Now we've seen a lot of companies get into and use Roblox, which we thought was for kids. So Nike went into it, they partnered with this online gaming platform, Roblox, right? And they created a virtual world in Roblox, right? And Nike as a brand. And they called it Nike Land. Now, they could use their avatars. Their avatar is like your persona, which is on the virtual world. And they can dress them up with Nike branded apparel, right? In this alternative world. And like Nightplant, there's a lot of companies that want to enter the metaverse because they see a very big opportunity. It's many years ago we had Second Life. I don't know if anyone remember Second Life, but it was a first attempt into getting into the metaverse. But now with Roblox and showing the potential of what this virtual world is, where people are going into the metaverse and they're buying land, they're buying shops and spending a lot of money to be in the virtual world. And what would think, is this really a thing? Is this really happening? My generation, I don't know, I can't see everyone's picture, but I can tell who might be a little bit older. Okay, yeah, okay. So, I'm almost 50. And when they tell me about the metaverse, I said, no one's going to get into the metaverse. But when I speak with younger people, I see that actually, this is something that is going to happen. Companies are going to want to go there and they want to explore. If, what makes a marketplace, Lynn? A marketplace is when there's buyers and sellers. Well, when one buyer goes or when one seller goes, they have a monopoly. So that makes other sellers want to go there because there's going to be competition. That's an opportunity. And usually the first one that goes there has the competitive advantage of being the first one there. So everyone is going to rush. And it's not an option anymore. Some companies are still at the age of they're still trying to be convinced to have a Facebook page. These people are like dinosaurs. Yeah. Facebook, it's dead for some people, Talk to me about Instagram, it's dead. Talk to me about TikTok, something's going on there. Talk to me about virtual reality and how people can come into your shop and actually do stuff and interact. Oh, okay. Talk to me about the metaverse and I get all excited, okay? Because this is going to happen, okay? So it is you guys, the new generation, where you take much more risks and you understand this virtual world better and you're much, much more comfortable with the technology. It's up to you people to do research about this area and see how we can move it forward. And offer different kinds of opportunities for companies, and it's a reality. It's I bet I could tell Kakul, you were waving when I said we're a different generation. I bet if I asked you 30 years ago if we would not use books anymore, and you'd think I'm crazy. No one uses books anymore. Everything is online. So yes, it's moving. It's moving fast, and we have to be fast.
Thank you so much. Honestly, before you talk, I know little about the metaverse, and I'm really shocked about how these companies utilize the metaverse. So yeah, it's very good to know. Thank you so much, Professor. So our next topic is about international business, and I remember that Alice was excited about it. So Alice, could you please introduce our next guest?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Lynn. And thank you, Dr. Yula. I just want to say that's been so insightful. Like Sergey and I, we had, I think at least 2 marketing classes, and I've never had this sort of insight. And it was just like 10 minutes that you were talking. So incredible. Thank you so much. I'm going to introduce the next lecturer, next professor, which is Professor Dr. Lina Todolidis. I'm really hoping I'm pronouncing this correctly. Just to give you a quick introduction for everyone listening, Professor Lenka has, she's been teaching subjects related to management disciplines, so strategic and international management and management of innovation at the Matej Bell University. I hope that's the correct name, in Slovakia. Professor, if I did the research correctly, your expertise is around leadership and leading the change in innovations and in organizations. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you, Alice. Please call me Lina, or Lena, or Lenka, whatever.
Perfect, thank you.
I really appreciate to be part of this youth networking event. And I see that, really knowing each other, I prefer to have informal working. So please call me with my first name, and I would be very, very happy if we can start to maybe exchange exchange our views on several topics. Yes, my expertise and mainly my research is associated with the leadership and shifting to examine leadership of the diverse teams, leadership for innovation. Thank you for Alice, for the introduction. And
no, of course. Thank you so much, really, for taking the time. We would have 2 questions prepared, if that's okay for you, if you don't want to.
Yes.
Just, so the first question would be that, of course, most aspects these days impact businesses, and we can witness it every day. And at the moment, we are still experiencing a pandemic, and we would basically like to hear from you how it has been affecting businesses and managers globally, exactly, especially like an international environment. So how difficult was it for businesses to run international operations due to the pandemic?
Mm-hmm. Well, I would also like to say hello to my 2 students that they also are part of this event. Hello, Patricia, and hello, Maria. Hello. And of course, all of you guys. I will be very brief. You see, pandemic, I think, surprised everyone. I mean, when was that? I mean, 2020. So it's like 3 years ago. But it was like at first a very global crisis or kind of unprecedented situation. And since that, we try to we continue with the research of examining how managers firstly cope in 2020 with this unexpected global crisis. But then recently we are facing few more crises related to war in Ukraine, or a crisis now related to energy. So we are regularly conducting quantitative and qualitative research with a really large group of managers in Slovakia, and defining or looking actually they can learn even from kind of a negative or not really easy period. And of course, some managers took it as an opportunity, and they even continue with some changes and innovations that work during the pandemic time. Now still maybe remote work is a lot of popular still due to the energy crisis, but also learn that they started to acknowledge and probably value human resources more than before. And that is also very interesting findings from our. And I would be very happy if anyone can contribute also to how you see it. You just mentioned the youth generation. You also probably face pandemic as a very strange maybe situation or period. So it will be very interesting how you younger generation how you see that, what was the opportunity for you, what was maybe something that you learned during that time. Thank you, Alice.
No, thank you. You're most well. Thank you, really. About the people giving their insights, we thought that we will do this at the 3rd part, basically, where people can also ask questions. So that would be a good time for that. We have a 2nd question prepared, if that's okay. I just wanted to say for the 1st question, I love that you mentioned the human resource aspect, because I think people tend to forget about this, given that there's so much like innovation and technology, like high-tech things. Like I'm in China at the moment, and it's all about technology. So I think you mentioning the human aspect is really interesting. For the second question, because yeah, like you say, you're an expert in innovation, and we've just heard from Professor Euler about like the connection between marketing, the metaverse, and innovations. So, in your opinion, does diversity influence innovation, and if yes, how?
Mm-hmm. Well, it would be really interesting to raise this question to all of you. I mean, now we are a diverse group of people, right? We so many young people, or even us older, from various countries. So generation older and younger. That's very good source of for diversity and for innovation. And it, as you already said, that we can really learn from each other. Yeah, I fully agree with what she said, that your generation, Gen Z, as called, yeah, you were born with the digital tools in your hands, which my generation, of course, not. So even my daughters sometimes they are telling me that I should go back to dinosaurs time or caves when I am questioning and really struggling with ideas, but not giving up learning. But you see, diverse teams, we started to also do the research in the organizations and especially in multinational organizations, multinational corporations, where they are having people from the different countries, different gender, different ethnic groups, and through the research, it confirmed. The findings from the research confirm that diversity contributes to innovation. Just simplify it in order not to really speak too much. Variety from various of the various elements. It's difficult to manage, but definitely is a source of creativity and innovation.
Perfect. Thank you. I was kind of hoping for this response. That's been a very good one. Thank you for your time. And yeah, we'd love to hear more from you later in like the discussion part, if you're up for that. I'm just gonna move on to the next part because I'm just talking about the issue that I want to hand over to Sergey, because you, I think, just recently took a program at the National University in Singapore, which was, I think, related to intercultural communication at work. So yeah, I'm going to hand over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Alice. Yeah, I was very, very honored to take a part in this online course during summer. And I have to admit that it was very interesting. It provided very, very valuable tips for working in the multicultural environment. And yeah, definitely worth checking it out. And now I'm more than privileged to address my questions to our next guest, which is Professor Dr. Kakul Aga. Professor Kakul is holds a PhD from Algar Muslim University, India, MBA in Human Resource, PhD in Higher Education, Professional Practice from Coverty University from UK, and carries also 24 years UG and PG training, research, dissertations, internships, PhD supervisions, and also student clubs experience from UAE, Oman, and India. Since 2014, Professor Kakul has been an associate professor at Skyline University College. She's well known for her podcast channel, The Business Bubbles, and is a certified trainer on happiness and work-life balance, having 3 certificates from University of Berkeley. Professor Aga is also passionate about teaching on cultural differences, diversity, and so on. So, Professor, welcome. Very happy to have you today.
Thank you, Sergey, for the welcome. Thank you very much.
So
if you can hear me.
Yes, it's perfect. We can hear you now. Yes, so I learned that you live and work in United Arab Emirates right now. We just learned how diversity influences innovations. So if you wouldn't mind, I would go with my first question, and I would like to ask you, how is diversity and inclusion seen in the United Arab Emirates?
Thank you, Sergey, for that very interesting question. You know, diversity and inclusion is the buzzword nowadays in the world. And I feel lucky to be a part of this country, UAE, United Arab Emirates. Has anybody visited this country anytime till now? Oh, Julia, I hope I pronounce your name correctly. It's a wonderful country. It's a young country, just 50 years old. And the good thing is that there are 200 plus nationalities residing in this country. So the moment you step out, you know that you are going to meet people with different languages, cultural understanding. Of course, they come with their own knowledge that they are able to share in this part of the world. So it's a very, very diverse sort of a country. A lot of people are from outside. Barely 19% of the population is actually part of this country, who are the Emiratis, that is the United Arab Emirates, who are the local residents of this country. Whereas, let's say around 23 to 25% are the other Arab world country residents. And of course, 50% are South Asians over here, and around 8 to 9% are other countries of the world. So it's a very, very diverse country that I live in. And that is where it helps us to understand how to manage diversity, how to manage inclusion in the forthcoming or upcoming generations, or let's say the future ahead. Your generation is quite worried about how diversity could be handled, because you are going to be part of a world which is full of diverse people, thanks to globalization. When I was of your age, not much globalization had happened at that time, of course. So I had little access to diversity or diverse people around me. But this is a time where I have students where maybe 30 different nationalities are sitting. Different languages, different cultures, different understanding, different body language that is accepted. So when you are talking about innovation, of course, that also is triggered by your own thought process. So when people are sitting in a class, or when people are working on innovation, diversity plays a huge role in making you understand how people look at diversity. Actually, the culture also impacts a lot when it comes to innovation. Which culture do you come from? What are you thinking? If you come from a culture where there is an orientation where you should not be, if you guys have studied about the different cultural orientations, or Geert Hofstede study, you would be aware of the long-term orientation, for example, or uncertainty avoidance, which are the factors that he talks about. And where in a long-term orientation, if you see, a lot of focus is there on following the traditions which are already established, and undervaluing changes, and societal changes are looked upon with suspicion. There may be slight inhibitions on how to take up innovation. And when we look at uncertainty avoidance also, that also is where rigid codes are followed, and people are intolerant to new behaviors, and therefore innovation may be resisted. And the Middle East is high on those indicators in Geert Hofstede studies. But when we look at UAE as such, even though it's high on these factors amongst Hofstede studies, you will see that all the world's innovation is out here in this country. They are good with getting innovation, using it very well, and hence inviting other people from other parts of the world to actually come and see these innovations. So I feel diversity is very helpful in innovation, and it actually helps us to understand how to think of different topics differently, and use them in different contexts. I hope I've answered your question.
You did. Thank you very much, Professor. It was very interesting that you pointed out about the innovation in the country. And back to your question, if anybody visited, not yet, but I hope I will see you there in February, definitely.
Hope so.
And yeah, from your answer, I may conclude that the Middle East is different from European countries for businesses and entrepreneurs. So my question for you would be, am I right? And if yes, could you please tell us in what way?
Thank you, Sergey, again for this very interesting question. I address a lot of youth because the belief of your generation, let's say post-millennials, Generation Z, etc., is that innovation is important, which is true. And a lot of young people I have seen who are in their 20s are more interested in entrepreneurship. Yes, you are correct, Sergey, when you say that Middle East is different from European world, or let's say America or Australia when it comes to entrepreneurship, because again, going back to my previous point that it's a young country, development has happened since the last 20, 25 years. I have been in this part of the world since the last 23 years, and I've actually seen countries getting built up. Especially, I have been in Oman, Sultanate of Oman and UAE, and I've actually seen the growth of these countries. The Burj Khalifa also was built when we used to visit, and we used to see it getting step by step from ground till what you can see now. Anyway, so entrepreneurship has been not a buzzword in this part of the world before. But now that the government has realized, let me tell you that the government is very different from the other governments of the world, including the country that I come from, India. The government is very proactive. In fact, very, very different from other parts of the world is that the government will react faster and are very proactive than the private organizations, which is quite different from other countries leading, even the advanced world, where the companies are very proactive, the business world is very proactive, whereas the governments are lagging behind and they're just catching up with the changes. But here the case is just opposite. So the government is so proactive and so advanced that the business world, the corporate has to actually catch up with the government. It's like that, which actually motivates people living in this part of the world to do something different and to come up with new things. So when it comes to entrepreneurship was not very well taken. Again, going back to the mentality of people and the uncertainty avoidance, failure is a problem in this part of the world. And when we talk of entrepreneurship, failure is a must. It'll happen sometime or the other. But here, when failure is unacceptable, there is the entrepreneurship. It's better and safe to find a good job which pays you well and takes care of a good salary and other perks as well. So now the government has taken huge initiatives to actually change the ecosystem of putting that environment or that ecosystem to promote more entrepreneurship within locals, the local population, not just the people who are coming from outside countries or the expatriates. So expats have been entrepreneurial, and most of the large organizations have been set up by expatriates, whereas the local population has been less entrepreneurial, and they have been more dependent on the public machinery or the public sector, which is already set up with a lot of branches and scope for getting them a good job. However, in the last decade, the government has taken sharp initiatives, well-established initiatives to create an ecosystem which helps people to find a place for incubation, acceleration, find some VCs, find some funding and investments across for setting up businesses. But on top of that, I would definitely say the commonalities between the European world and this part of the world is that, yes, there is still not enough funding available, easily available, no. And the market is also quite fragmented. Some of the mentality, I would say, some of the forces that play a big role in setting up a business is the factors related to the ecosystem, which is still in the juvenile stages. And lack of original ideas is the biggest killer. Most of the businesses that are set up in this part of the world, you will see, are somehow an imitation of what's going on in the developed world. So they are customized and contextualized to the Middle East, but they are doing well. But some of the businesses which have been well, for example, they used to occur, souk.com. Souk in Arabic means market. And souk.com was taken over by Amazon because they had already a very, very well-connected system of delivery with thousands of customers already in the system. So instead of trying to just set up a parallel system, Amazon was smart enough to actually put in their funds and take over the souk.com. And initially, look at the strategy. Initially, they didn't change the name because souk.com is a more popular and familiar name to the buyers. And later, after 2 years of the takeover, they were able to change it to Amazon. So this is how things work over here, because the amount of customers are lesser as compared to the other parts of the world. People are able to establish their businesses, and international firms are actually interested in getting them as takeovers or mergers, and they see that there is some profit in that as well. So yes, there are some challenges, there are some differences, and there are some similarities as well in comparison to the European world or the American market. Thank you, Sergey.
Thank you very much, Professor. I find it really fascinating, the comparison that you just made, keeping in mind that, as you said yourself, the UAE is very young country, while in Europe we have a bit of the older countries, definitely, which cannot really be a, so to say, competitor in terms of innovation. Thank you very much. I hope we will chat more about it in February. And now, before I move on to my colleague, I would actually like to read a little quote from a research paper that I was happy to be co-author, which is going nicely and links nicely to the next topic. Poverty, armed conflicts, climate change, natural disasters, pandemics, insecurity, poor health, poor education system, uncertainty, and inability to find employment are just some reasons why people choose to leave their country of origin and seek a better life in another country, on the same or some other continent. The number of economic migrants as well as refugees is on the rise worldwide, end quote. Having that said, I'm not going to talk about the paper, but I will invite my colleague Minkyu to introduce our next guest who knows much more about this topic.
Thank you, Sergey. It is my privilege to introduce one of the most eminent researchers in the field of human resource management, Professor Dr. Marina Lakuha. Nice to meet you. Professor Marina is the Associate Professor at the Graduate Student of Management, St. Petersburg State University. She teaches international and strategic human resource management for BA, MA, and MBA programs. Professor Marina has attended several postdoctoral programs in leading European and US business schools, including the Harvard Business School and HAAS School of Business, the London Business School, and the HEC School of Business. She is an academic director of doctoral programs. Nice to meet you, Professor Marina. Since I'm in Korea Army, my camera is unavailable. Sorry for that.
Thank you, dear colleagues. Thank you very much, and good afternoon. I'm honored to be at this forum, at this webinar, and maybe to say that I'm a very good example of the topic that I going to talk shortly today, because now I'm not only represent the St. Petersburg State University, I used to do it, but now I'm represent the one fast-growing French university, and I was relocated there a couple of months ago. So this is an example how the migration works, and the migration in action, I can say. And so I'm happy to participate, and I'm happy to discuss the current issues in migration, because why we're talking about migration and why migration is in attention of many researchers and practitioners, and because while we're talking about migration, we're talking about human capital. But human capital, this is the most valuable asset that mankind has, and we can use technologies, we can use tangible assets to run our businesses. We may have the same access to finance, to any technologies. However, we do not have the same people at our businesses, and this what do us unique in terms of their competitive advantage. So why many countries and many firms nowadays and fight for talents, and we have the special term, which is war for talent, because we would like to have the human capital on board with us to be able to compete in the global markets, and immigration blurring our opportunity to be on board with our best talents available. So that's why migration is really important. And nowadays, in the attention of many people who are trying to understand how to attract, develop, and retain talents on both on country level and firm levels.
So thank you, Professor Marina. It's very interesting thing that you emphasize the importance of the migrants. So Professor Marina, you're an eminent researcher in the field of HRM. And as far as I know, you recently worked on research related to migrants a lot, and their impacts on business and economics. Can you tell us more about the impact of businesses and economics that migrants have?
Yeah, sure. In the simple words, the impact is tremendous. Because if we don't have talents, if we don't have human resources and human capital, we can do nothing. That's why we need to think about different mechanisms. And one of my recent research was about how to overcome this migration using the firm level practices, which is really important because we studied intentions of young graduates like you to migrate from developing countries, from emerging markets, to developed countries. And we know that there are a lot of push and pull factors. And Sergey, you're absolutely right that there are a lot of different reasons that push people to find the better place for their living and the working places. However, we still need to think how to retain talent on board. And we try to understand how the businesses and how managers and CEOs should contribute to overcome the problem of migration. And we try to think that maybe if the local talents should find the proper place and the proper atmosphere at the local organizations, their pull factors will be a little bit, and push factors will be decreased because they can find the opportunities within their local countries. And we found very interesting phenomena that within the firms that the talent management and human resource management developed and act as a system. Young graduates would like to stay and to serve for local firms. It means that their migration intentions decreases if they find an opportunity for a better place in their organization and local organizations. And the role of human resource management systems and the businesses are really important, and we empirically prove it. So what does it mean for us? So I'm not going to talk about this from the academic point of view, from the research point of view, but what does it mean for us as the managers, as the people who will be leading the businesses in the future, for you, the young generation, that we need to be very careful, to very care about their managerial practices that we develop and implement on a firm level. And it's really impact on the migration intentions of people who are local talents. And this is not only firm level, but this also the country level perspective, because the country and the institutions and the government state policy should also provide the important environment for people to be able to stay within the country and to be able to serve for the businesses at the local businesses. So I would like to say that first of all, we need to be very, very care and to think and to reflect that human resource management systems and managerial practices are very important. It's not only about the HR people and not only about HR managers. We used to think that people issue this is responsibility of HR managers. No, the people issue this is responsibility for all managers and for all people within the organization. Because nevertheless, if you are not HR managers, but you are marketing manager or you operational manager, or you just lead your project, you team leader, you still work with people, and you need to be able to motivate, to retain, to inspire, and to lead them. And it means from that perspective, you are going to be HR managers as well. And we need to think how we construct our practices and systems within the organization to be able to prevent this migration, because migration, this is the phenomena that link to brain drain, and brain drain that if our talents outflow from our country, we are suffering from the brain drain. But if the countries receive the brain circulation and the brains and talents, we may say about the brain gain. But this may be the other story, how the countries should manage brain gain, because this is also the challenge for nowadays for many countries to manage the talent pool that come from this as a consequences of migration.
Oh, thank you, Professor Marina. So I was very impressed that talking about the brain drain and how each country should work hard to stop those brain drain is impressive. Thank you. And moving to the next question, which I made it 1 hour before the
now conference meeting.
Okay. So I saw the papers that you wrote before, and I also find out that you are an expert for talent management as well. And from there, I saw that you wrote a lot about Russia. So just for my own curiosity, are there any cultural differences that Russia has that make its talent management different from the other countries?
I wouldn't say that there is a cultural differences because the practices are more or less the same. Russia was not very intensive recently in terms of their managerial education. So managerial education is quite young in Russia. And for example, I graduated from the St. Petersburg State University, Graduate School of Management, and it was the first business school in Russia organized in 1994. So at that time, before that time, it was nothing about the management leadership in Russia. So, and it means that Russian company, they should very fast learn from the global experience, from the best practices. And that's why, for example, the development and knowledge acquisition was really intensive. And this is one of the peculiarities. And if you look at the Russian companies nowadays, you may see a lot of different development programs, because historically it was a lack of development of these competences, managerial leadership, and other competences that needed to survive and to compete at the global market. So, for example, this is one of the peculiarities. By the way, the same issue with the Chinese company. They're really still active in knowledge acquisition, again by different historical issues. But I would say now that it's another trend that we can observe for Russian market. It's not even cultural embeddedness, but it's mostly about the migration issues. And what we can observe now that within the last half a year, almost 1 million high-skilled people, employees are left Russia. So this is the very big gap in terms of the competencies, and because of this geopolitical crisis. Nowadays, for the Russian talent management system, it's going to be great challenge how to restructure the system to be able to retain and attract new talents in order to compensate this huge human resource divestment. Because we can call it, now we do research and we can call it human resource divestment as a new phenomena that then we observe now related to the Russian market, because a lot of people left, and that means that the labor market are not enough to compensate the needs for companies and for businesses to continue some operations. And it's not only the case of the local companies, but it's case of some multinational companies. They are still operating in the Russian market, and the call for actions nowadays for talent management in Russia, how to attract and how to retain people at the same, let's say, scope and scale that used to be, and of course that's impossible to do now, and it means that people who are involved in a talent management, they should think how to restructure the processes to be able to compensate this great loss. But what I would like to also say here that this is very interesting phenomena, by the way, maybe for you to think for future when you will be the leaders, business level, at the governmental level, that there are very interesting phenomena that you know, that if there are very intensive migration flows, the companies and countries should understand what to do with this. And for example, we may observe now that there are some companies and countries who are more welcoming Russian people who migrate due to this geopolitical situation. And there are some countries that are not so very welcoming due to some different reasons, of course, maybe historical relations and many other issues. However, the new challenge that we can observe now for countries, how to manage this different talent pools that emerge due to some geopolitical issues that we can observe nowadays, and how to benefit from this, and how to manage the knowledge spillovers, and how to manage this attraction and development processes that benefit from the high-skill migration at the recipient countries. And this is what the new generation, will definitely face. You will need to decide how to manage these migration flows inward and outward at the global perspective, and how to benefit from them, because we used to think that the migration is like a bad issue, but of course this is a bad issue from the home countries, but from the host country's perspective, that can be a lot of benefits that we need to think from the country level perspective and from the business level perspective.
Thank you, Professor Marina. It was very nice, and I found it astonishing that we recently had the issues from Russia, and there are 1 million people who leave the countries for the migration, and the lot of political issues, and how we should think of the benefit and how to attract those human resources. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss. Thank you, Professor Marina. Thank you very much. It was both interesting and informative. Sergey, I read your paper, and in one place you mentioned work-life issues that migrant workers face. I believe that balancing work and life duties and responsibilities is challenging, whether you're a migrant or not. That is why I believe this topic is very intriguing, not only for our next guest, but also for Sergey. Sergey, you told me that your guest is one of the best experts to consult in that regard.
Yes, thank you very much, Minkyu. As you said yourself, it's a topic that most workers, and also I would dare to say students, find very challenging to balance work and life duties. And yeah, for my next guest speaker, I don't need an introduction again because I have already done it. I would like to invite Professor Kakul back with us, as a professor is very passionate and knowledgeable in the area of work-life balance. So Professor Kakul, welcome back.
Thank you.
So I always try to get more when I talk to somebody I can learn from. So What would you tell us, if I may start immediately, what is the most importance and value of work-life balance for youth?
Thank you, Sergey, and thank you everybody for this opportunity on speaking on work-life balance. It's a very, very interesting topic, and it's very close to my heart. My PhD is in work-life balance. So from that time onwards, I started focusing on work-life balance in terms of publications, in terms of thinking, and in terms of my own work-life balance as an individual. So yes, work-life balance is important, not only for people as old as me and my colleagues of same age in this webinar, but also young students like you. So when we talk of work-life balance, the new word now is work-life integration, because trying to strike a balance between work and life is slightly difficult, because some people would like to focus more on work, or some people are more ambitious to achieve more things at a young age, and some people may be more family oriented. But work-life integration is like you're juxtaposing your work and your life together in such a way that you're getting or striking a balance. So work-life integration is definitely a very well-researched topic nowadays. In different sectors, you will find a lot of research. And in fact, my own research is there focusing on university professors. So for students, I would say that yes, the first thing that I feel for students is that you are all sleepless. You are all devoid of good sleep. Because I see at my own home also, I have a grown-up boy like you who's doing postgraduate, and another one, teenager, who is all the time busy on their phone. Fine, okay, I agree. Without technology, we cannot move. We have heard some speakers also. But where is the balance? That balance is missing. When something is an overdose, let's say even when you are asleep, the phone is in your hand, the earbud is in your ear, and the music is still ringing in your ears and you are asleep, I think that's impacting your health. See, this is a very well-connected stuff. For example, if I give you small stones, some larger pebbles, larger, this size, few big stones, water and sand, these are the 5 things. And I tell you to put it in a jar. What should you put first? Think like that. Some of the people would like to put the sand first. The moment you put the sand first, where is the space for pebbles, larger stones, water, or whatever? Some people would say, I would put the small stones first. So you start putting the small stones. Now you're done with the space. Where do you put the larger stones? Some people would actually fill it up with water. Now this balance that I'm talking about is for you, for the youth, for students of your age, for Gen Z, because striking this balance is the key to success. So what is your time when it comes to as a resource? Time is fixed resource, 24 hours only. We cannot make it 48 hours. So when we are using our resources, technology is another resource that we need to use. So when you are trying to strike a balance in your life in terms of your studies, in terms of your physical health, in terms of your mental health, in terms of your friends and family members, and in terms of your religious beliefs, that is where your success lies. Overindulgence in any of these things may lead to disbalance. So when we are looking at youth only, my suggestion is take up a template which is available on Google. Type wheel of life. Wheel of life. Do that, solve it for yourself, and see that the shape of the wheel has to be circular. If you are able to balance these 5 aspects of your life, which I named just 1 minute back, your wheel would be much more balanced. And a wheel has to be circular in order to move on in life. If your wheel is of shape which is not so circular, that means, yes, I am not taking care of my inner self, or or my own self. I am not able to meet my family or give them time. Maybe you would be having a wheel which is somehow crooked, not circular. And that is where the problem might start. So as a student, since you are young, try to have your priorities set. Try to look at the wheel of life and see that you are able to somehow put in that effort. See, it's all about mindset. So you have to put in that effort to get your wheel of life more circular. And also see that you are having somewhere a self-awareness of how can I work around my work-life integration. You can neither leave work, nor you can leave your life. You have to just learn the art of integrating them properly, juxtaposing them, and letting them settle down gracefully with each other. And that is where your success will lie. Sergey.
Thank you very much, Professor. This was very, very interesting. Thank you for mentioning it. I'm checking Wheel of Life as you speak. And yes, you were right. Mine is a bit not really like a wheel, but thank you very much. I believe that even though, as you said, that nowadays this topic is very researched, I think it's never researched, never enough research. Let's say there still should be much more on it, and we should still definitely talk more about it because it's very important. And now I would like to ask you also, we know that balancing work and life is extremely difficult for women. Can you give some advice for our colleagues and ladies on how to balance professional duties and private lives?
Thank you, Sergey. Your expectation is for me to talk about women? Am I right?
Yes, please. Yes.
Thank you. Yes. This is another very well-researched topic. You will find a lot of research articles on how women have been pushed to a level where, but I'm not saying here that men have pushed the women to that level where they have actually to think about balancing. It's the environment, the ecosystem, and the society around us that we are talking about. So initially, the research of work-life balance started with more focus on women, where it was felt that women don't get the time for themselves because they have to manage 2 chores at a time. One is their job and one is the family. That means taking care of the children, doing things at home. And obviously, all the time, physical energy and mental stress is based on how you are able to manage all those things. And men were taken very lightly, where it was felt or it was perceived that men need not worry about their work-life balance. Everything is fine with them. But recently, since a decade or so, this myth has been shattered because the men of the society internationally, I'm talking of every man in this world, faces the problem of work-life balance. But yeah, your question helps me to focus a little bit more on women. So I'll talk more about women, and in that particular context, yes, women are charged with 2 things at a time. One, given time as a fixed resource, they have to work 8 hours or maybe flexible. And second thing is that they are also equally important and, let's say, more focused on taking care of family, including spouse, parents, or even small or elder children. So when we are talking of women, the difficulty level is slightly higher than the men, and that pushes them more to panic or set themselves in a zone where they are feeling depressed, and they feel that they have nothing left for themselves. Either they have the time nor the energy. And after that, only the me time concept came into picture. So the me time concept is a very critical concept for women, because end of the day, women do things for their children, their home, beautifying the home, beautifying their children, looking at this study, education, this, that, along with the job, and they have no time for themselves. Even if your mom is sleeping and you say, "Mom, I'm feeling hungry," she will jump out of the bed and make you something to eat, let's say a sandwich. And if you say the same thing to anybody else in the world, apart from your mom, they will say, come on, do it yourself. I'm feeling sleepy. Don't wake me up. This is the difference, which pushes mothers or women, even single moms or unmarried girls into a zone where they feel stressed, tired, and they lack focus on themselves. So the me time concept is something which I think has worked very well. So for the women, I would say, take out me time. Follow your passion, do things that you like, segregate a time for yourself. You don't have to be rigid, but you can use your mood element to some extent, but do it. Sometimes we keep postponing. As one of my colleagues, I'm also in my 50s. And when I was in 20s and 30s and a young mom, I never thought of me time. Only when I realized it, it was too late for the me time. But now that I have learned it, I feel it's actually a very helpful thing. The second thing that I would suggest women is you are not the center of the world. If you have seen videos that we are and how we are such a small unit in this whole universe and in the galaxy and everywhere else around us, actually we are nothing. So stop believing that if I don't do it, nobody will do it. It won't happen. Everybody is self-sufficient. People know how to do things. So stop taking everything on yourself. There are people who will learn how to do it. The people will actually get the skills also to do it. So over a period of time, you have to stop taking charge of everything, which we say in management terms, trying to see that the processes go well and as per their mood and as per the way they have designed. So being in control. So stop being in charge of everything. Let loose certain things. Nobody is a perfection in this world. Not that everybody can have the best of the health and the best of the mood and best of everything at any given point in time. So women have to let loose certain things and stop being perfectionists all the time. This perfectionist attitude is also killing women and helping them to get into this negative zone of depression, tardiness, irritation, feeling loss of confidence, etc. This is a good thing to be perfectionist, but I don't think it really works well for women having so many responsibilities across. So the second suggestion is don't get into the mode of perfection. Nobody is perfectionist. Nobody can be a perfect role model or 100% of anything. So we have to get out of this mode and rather be a normal person where you accept your mistakes. The third and the last one I would say is awareness. Mental awareness, physical awareness, being aware of your surrounding and acceptance of who you are is very critical. We have to stop assuming I can do everything. I will do everything. I can achieve a lot. Let me be the star. And for that, you make compromises in terms of your health, in terms of your rest, in terms of your mind, in terms of your emotions. Stop doing that. Stop it. Be gentle to yourself. We have been very harsh with ourselves because of the expectations of the society. So we have to stop being harsh to ourselves as women. And the last thing in line with the third one is women have to support women in women empowerment. Now, the complaint that I get from my students in this part of the world is, ma'am, everybody is talking of women empowerment. What about men? We are not getting anything. So now I would say that yes, men should support women. Women should also support each other. Because sometimes women become animosity with women, not with men. So men support more women in comparison to women, which should not be the case. So somewhere we need to understand everybody has emotions which need to be heard, respected, supported in some way or the other. So women support women, women support men, and men also support women. And of course, men support men. We know that already since decades. So all these tips, they look very superficial, they look very common, but we have to follow them. Following these will actually help you change. If you just agree with them and believe in them, nothing changes. So you have to actually use it in real time and implement it in your life to make yourself successful. You are the future. If you are able to change practices now in your 20s, by the time you are in 40s and 50s like us, the world will change in some manner or the other. Thank you, Sergey. I hope I have put in some value to this answer.
Thank you very much, Professor. Again, this was an extremely interesting and the topic we could just talk about for hours, and it's as much as we have researched on it, it's still never enough. So thank you very much. Once again, I'm looking forward to hopefully meeting in February and discuss more on these topics with you in person. So dear colleagues, these were the topics that we selected and intended to ask our guests. Basically, what we would like to find out now is how our educational institutions prepare their students for these life questions and issues. Therefore, I know that Danny has prepared several questions for our two guests that are coming up. So Danny, the floor is yours, and please introduce our guests.
Thank you, Sergey. So I will introduce two guests. One of my guests is current rector and the other one is former rector. So please allow me to introduce Professor Nino Enukize. Hope I pronounce it correctly.
Yes, it's correct.
Yeah, thank you. So Professor Nino is a rector of Business and Technology University with more than 10 years working experience in education sector, engaging stakeholders in innovations and technology agenda of the country. And she launched Global Startup Foundation to operate at Silicon Valley, Tbilisi, in collaboration with Israel Silicon Wadi. And Professor Nino acted also as a dean at BTU, the Business and Technology University, and deputy director and dean as a Management Institute of Ilia State University. She's also a member of the European Marketing and Management Association Honorary Board and member of Women's Forum. So, yeah, would you like to say something?
Yes, first of all, thank you very much for having me today. I was listening to previous speakers and they are so inspiring and interesting that I would just take some notes about a number of things they have said because it's really very useful, and I think you can use these tips in many years forward. So congratulations for you having these wonderful speakers. Now, as for me and as for education industry, well, let's say that we, and under we, I mean the group, the team of Business and Technology University, from day one, we tried to give a different approach to teaching business or IT. We had this feeling that the students from programs in management, in finances, in marketing, or in any other industry from business administration, they did not have a very strong technology skills. And as we know, let me just remind you that in 2016, when the World Economic Forum was held, and it's being held annually in Davos, the president of the forum announced that the fourth industrial revolution has officially begun. What does that mean? That means that the technology will be affecting everything we do in our lives. It's not just for IT people, like for IT students. Of course it is, but not only. Does not matter what profession are you choosing in your life in future. Is it being a journalist or a doctor or a lawyer or, I don't know, marketing or scientist? Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was saying that doesn't matter what profession students are choosing, improving the digital literacy is very important. It's one person in order. So let's start from the idea that tech is from every profession. So when COVID started, couple of years ago, what we faced is that the digital divide gap became huge. People don't have skills, people didn't have the access to technology, to computers, to internet, which, for example, in my country was quite a high statistic. For them, communicating with the external world was extremely difficult. For them, doing their job, their work, even remote. Let's just recall.
Is there a technical issue?
Noise is very high.
Unfortunately, Professor, we are not able to hear you. At least I'm not.
So, can you hear me now?
Yeah, now it's better.
Yes, it's better.
Okay, so I was saying that there is one very famous quote, which is a very good thing to remember, when the scientist, very well known, Charles Darwin, once said that this is not of the strongest of species that will survive, but it's the ones who are most adaptable to change. And I think that we should think about it really often, because technology is changing the world we live in really very fast. So being adaptive to these changes is crucial to be successful, to be up to date, and to do the job in the highest level, in the highest quality you could. So while we are discussing how education sector might prepare students for the challenging world, whether it is COVID pandemic or any other, or there is war we are, in the region we are facing now, or anything else, I think that students having strong digital skills, digital literacy skills, as well as strong cyber hygiene skills are the ones who are more able to succeed in this fastly changing world. Now, I mentioned cyber hygiene, and this is one of the biggest challenges, mostly for youth and for students in our country, as well as in many other countries from which our representatives, our guests today are joined. So under cyber hygiene, I mean that even though the technology is bringing number of good things to our lives and is making our lives much better, we are facing things like personal data privacy challenges. We are facing cyberbullying, for example, mostly in schools, even in universities. We have huge issues in financial security, in financial sector, cybersecurity, and so on. So delivering these digital skills is not enough unless you teach people how to create the cyber. So one thing I also wanted to mention is the possibility giving to.
Professor Nino, if you just log out and log in again, maybe it will be helpful. We are not able to hear your words.
Yes, give me a try. Okay.
Give it a try, yeah.
I think now it's okay. Now it's okay. We can hear you now.
So, can you hear me better?
Yeah, it's much better.
Yeah, thank you. One more thing I want to address, which is a very important thing, is an unemployment in many countries. So when we take a look at statistics, in some cases, the growing statistics of unemployment, let's take a deep understanding on what technology is offering, suggesting to students. So if students has the digital literacy, skills. If student is strong in technology, again, doesn't matter which profession is this for, they can try to work remotely on a. So, well, as the noise comes again, finally, I want to say that for every university across the world, digital and accordingly moving curriculum is the most important thing to do. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Professor Nino. That's really informative, and thank you for sharing your thoughts. And I agree that students nowadays need to adapt to new technology and digitalization to better achieve their future career. Yeah, thank you so much. And now let me introduce another guest, Professor Majo Vazic. So Professor Vazic is a president of European Marketing and Management Association. He has acted as a dean at 3 faculties, vice rector at 2 universities, and rector at Slobodni University. He was a great lecturer in Greece, Romania, Slovenia, Serbia, and United Kingdom as well. And between 2015 and 2018, Professor Vazic was appointed as an ambassador of Bosnia to Romania. So hi, Professor Majo.
Hello, Danny.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. So I got one question for you. So could you tell us what are the emerging trends and disruptions in higher education?
Thank you, Mr. President, Danny, for this question. Allow me first to welcome all of you, to congratulate for the organization of this event. It was very interesting. Well done. Let me start maybe by mentioning a few trends that we witness nowadays in higher education. First, what you all noticed is the practice of learning from anywhere and everywhere. The pandemics brought some good and some bad things to us, definitely. Because of pandemics, universities have been forced to put a lot of their teaching online to change some habits and practices. It has spurred a number of innovations in the educational sector, and the universities around the world become more flexible, offering both online and on-site teaching. It also created new trends that will shape the future of the higher education, but it also provoked questions and debates about the quality of what was learned and the learning outcomes. Many will agree, and many complained that the learning outcomes were far below what was expected during the regular process. And also there were some researchers that were done some really 30, 40 years ago that also proved that they had two groups. One was experimental. It was done in, if I remember, Navarra University. One experimental group was a floor above, and the other one was below. So those who were having regular lectures with professors in front of them at the exam scored some 30% higher than those who were following everything online in that way. So yes, the results were not as good as everybody hoped, but it was a necessity, and at least it helped us save the day. The next trend I would say is replacing lectures with active learning. Somebody said that lectures are an effective way of teaching and an ineffective way of learning. They have been used for centuries the same way because they are cheap, and sometimes it was the only way to transfer knowledge to students. With the new technologies, with digitalization, what Professor Yula was talking about, the education becomes more flexible, more affordable, and more accessible globally. Today, it seems unreasonable to pay thousands of dollars or euros to listen to something that you can, to get some information that you can actually find easily somewhere on internet or in books. When I was a rector, a student approached me and complained against one professor. He said, like, the professor is citing his book. And indeed, professor knew his book by heart. I have 6 books, and if you ask me what's in book blah, blah, blah on page 54, it would be hard for me to recall what is the chapter about, not only the text. And the professor knew the book by heart, from first page to the last page, every single word, even commas and full stops. And he would come to the class and he was reciting that like a poem. And students complained. They said, we can do this alone. We can do it ourselves. Why bothering to come to lectures? And indeed, the educational institutions need to make some changes, need to demonstrate some kind of effective learning outcomes. Human brains do not learn much by listening. They say that only little information we learn in that way through listening. We keep just a small proportion, and most of that, even what we remembered, we forget over time. So real learning actually relies on the application of knowledge, that is to say, combination of studying and working. To connect to the previous trend, I would emphasize teaching skills and market needs. There are many researches, many surveys done, and one was very interesting what I came across, suggesting that some 90%, more than 90% of universities believe they are doing a good job and preparing students well for the labor market. When they asked students of those universities how they feel, only 40% agreed with that. And when they asked employers, some 12% agreed with what universities believed and what they said. So it turns out that actually most universities teach what they can and what they know, and not what is actually the need of the employers and what market needs. The next trend is also related to digitalization, also what we already heard, meta learning, so digital experiences, bringing people from geographically dispersed locations and various economic backgrounds together to learn. It is, let's say, in a cost-effective, but also flexible and quick way. And that kind of teaching provides some kind of experiential, real-world scenario and low-pressure situations where you can make mistake without some serious, let's say, life serious consequences. The next trend would be the expansion of open educational resources. We all face thousands of different resources available for free, for learning and for research, which is very useful, keeping in mind the fact that such resources, or let's say such libraries, were rather expensive in previous years. So this is something that helped us. The next challenge, let's say, the next trend is the expansion of micro-credentials. Micro-credentials are programs that are done in a very short time period and on a specific skill set. So it is believed that nowadays there are some 700,000 micro-credentials offered worldwide. There are short courses, professional certificates, different licenses, each certificate is issued by universities, so on. So they are organized, they are offered by different organizations, associations, but also by most prestigious universities. When we take a look at the education, about the trends worldwide, we can all in all, wherever we live, agree and complain on high cost of education. The traditional way of education entails certain costs. So these costs vary and depend on several factors. So starting from the tuition fees, so prices of studies, the prices of accommodation, of food, learning materials, traveling, and so on. So lots needs to be paid to make it possible for our children to study. This is an extremely significant amount of money, since most families, especially for students who need to leave their place of residence to study. Those who are lucky to have good universities in their hometowns, they at least avoid accommodation and let's say food cost if they live with their parents. We have witnessed that, and you've seen that a lot on TV. I think it was very popular last year in the States. It's a practice that their students, when they start studying, they take loans, and most of them suffer throughout the life because of those loans. They never really get rid of them. And I remember that there was a debate, and I think one of the presidents, I think it was the last year, Biden, he promised, or he even helped the students be forgiven those loans, so no need to pay them anymore, because they were in a kind trapped, so they couldn't live and function properly. All these trends will lead to a new philosophy. So we need a new philosophy, and that philosophy, I cannot say it will be born. I think it's already born out of necessity, and that is about work and education path. So if I ask you, why do you study? All of you, and also us who already finished everything, would say to get a good job once we graduate, right? That's exactly what motivates people, and what motivated me and Nina and all our colleagues who are together with you today. We enrolled universities after the high school, and we hoped for a good job after we graduate. So we were going to university to get the job later. After our bachelor course, we started working, continued the master and PhD studies, and so on. So we were called postgraduate working students at that time. So after that, we were working to study. When I was visiting schools some 10 years ago, secondary schools, school leavers, some 10 years ago, and asked kids what they were planning to do after they leave high school, some 97% of them said they will enroll in universities, any program, different programs. If you go now and ask the same questions, 89% would say to get a first job, then to study. So instead of going to a university to get a job, students will increasingly be going to job to get a university degree. So it will be opposite. And it will be a trend in a near future. Comparing to us, we were postgraduate working students. Majority of them, of the younger ones, will be undergraduate working students, because it will be the only way to afford studies, and not only to afford studies. I will say later what else. This doesn't mean that the higher education as we know now will vanish, will be eliminated, will disappear. Degrees will remain important, and they will still be desired. Only the path, the technologies and methods will definitely change. And for that change, businesses will need to be proactive and flexible. So the ball is in their field, what footballers say. As a benefit, they will get exactly what they need and what they always complain about. They will get the workforce they lack, so those they cannot find on the market. They will get young graduates with skills they need, because they are going to inbuild those skills then. They will have workers with working habits they prefer, with those habits that they will teach them, and they will get loyalty. They will get loyal workers. Businesses that understand this and connect to educational institutions that can provide flexible education will create, let's say, triple win situation. So let me conclude. It's not, the future is not black. It will be okay. New challenges always bring some new opportunities. Recently, I was at a conference, and after my keynote speech, I was talking about digitalization. A professor from the audience, he gave a comment talking about one of the professors, one of the researchers who was having a presentation of her paper, and that professor, that lady said that universities will remain as they are now, and so on, so forth. And he asked me if I agree, and I said, for me, maybe I'm wrong. I don't have a crystal ball, but things will definitely change, and it will not be the same. If things don't change, and we have to be happy because things change, we will still live in caves, we will still light fire with some wood or whatever. We will still hunt rabbits with stones. So things will change. They will be different. But he said, yeah, but kids will all the time be watching their mobiles and computers, and mobiles and computers are their lives. So that's something that they are born with. When we were young, we were told not to watch TV because it will destroy our eyesight, so we will get blind. So we also tell it to our kids, but actually new technologies, we have to use them with caution, but they will definitely make lives easier and better. And how we use technologies, especially artificial intelligence that is getting stronger daily, is like the same as how we use nuclear power. If we use it in a good way, we benefit. If we use it in a bad way, we can all be destroyed. So it's not about the technology, it's about the way that we use it and the way we take the most of it. To succeed, we need the universities to understand that technology is improving fast, and the university should take care that their staff, their faculty, their professors need to be trained regularly to be able to follow new trends, not to stay behind the kids. So they need to be updated. The companies, and I will conclude with this, the companies need to understand that everything changes, and they also need to follow new trends and to remain competitive, not only in recruiting. It's easy to recruit a person. You sell few lies and you get the employee, but once you get the employee, then that employee faces reality, and soon after that leaves you. So it's not only about recruiting, it's about retaining employees and keeping them happy. And businesses and universities must become one in those activities. Otherwise, they will lack both. They will lack students and they will lack employees. So Danny, from my side, that much. You are all welcome, of course, for more questions if you have wish.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, Professor Mayo. Thank you for sharing your perspectives and introducing so many emerging trends. That's very interesting. Yes, and I believe things are going to change for sure. And let's hope the new generation and all our members here will find interesting and useful as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Alice, I think it's time to invite our colleagues, students, and from other institutions to ask questions as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was about to ask. I understand that it's gotten quite late, and we took a bit more time than originally planned. But of course, as we promised, if any one of you has any further questions to either us or to our lecturers, please just turn on your camera or your microphone and just let us know. Okay, I'm just having a look in the chat if anyone's maybe messaging something there. But yeah, it seems like it's gotten a bit late. What do you guys say? Should we wrap it up?
Yeah, if there is nobody who would like to comment on anything, you can proceed.
May I ask something? May I ask one question? our colleague, Professor Kakul, you were asked about work-life balance from the perspective of ladies or women. What about men? Is it different? How can we balance our professional and private duties and obligations?
Professor Miller, thank you very much for your question. And I think that's a very useful question because work-life balance should not be about women, as the latest research is. And definitely men are also, being humans, should be having or should be getting equal privileges related to work-life balance. Yes, a lot of things can be done with men also. And just to share a little example, of course, in that part of the world where you are, paternity leave is a very common thing, I hope so, and everybody's availing that. But in this part of the world, for example, in the UAE, only this year, 2022, February, they started with giving paternity leave to fathers. The reason being that till now, the whole idea of taking up children and letting them see what the world is all about is the job of the mom. Whereas when we look at the real world, the realities of the world, most of the moms are working. So now that they've realized that paternity leave is something which men also deserve and they also need to enjoy that family life, I think it's a great move in the UAE. Just to answer your question more directly, looking at the time that we have, take care of yourself. In spite of every stress that you are having, I think more important is the physical stress of men, because it's believed that, okay, you have all the energy, all the power, everything to keep on handling. Most of the times, your emotional value is left behind. So what I feel is that women should take care of the family members. Yes, fine. But also, men should take care of their own emotions, their physical health, as well as the other things, the 5 aspects that I talked about. Being with friends is not the most important thing for men. See, in this part of the world and in Asian world, a lot of time is being spent by men with their friends. And they leave behind all the responsibilities to women, thinking that, okay, women will handle the house. It's their job, none of our business. But that kills their me time as well, along with being in a men's circle. You are more prone to smoking and maybe drinking, and that also impacts the physical health of men. Being in collaboration with your family impacts you positively in terms of your emotions as well as in terms of your physical health. So I believe that the balance between all the 5 elements, including spirituality and of course your own knowledge gathering and praying and all those things, bring more peace to men. So men should not think that, okay, my job is just to earn money and that's it. I'm there earning money. Now my time, whatever I do with it. No. Try to weave your time around the 5 aspects of your work-life balance, and probably that will help them to take care of more about themselves. Because if somebody is there to take care of you, very good. But somewhere you also need to step in to take care of your own health, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Thank you. I hope I've answered it.
Yes, that's useful. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Mille.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Kakul. That was a good finish, I would say. It's very good to conclude with that. So yeah, then in the name of everyone, I thank my fellow team members from the moderating committee, Dr. Vasic, and all the other lecturers who were giving all those informative answers. Thank you very much. And to all the students who are still with us, I hope you have good holidays, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And thank you very much for attending today. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye. Happy holidays.
Thank you, everyone.
All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye.